Hi guys, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're looking at expanding perfect squares. Now last lesson, we jumped into looking at expanding binomial products. So first of all, we would have revisited something that looks like this, okay? And then we would have revisited something that looks like this. So let's have a quick look at these two questions before we go on to what the perfect square is. To be honest, if you were okay last lesson, you're super okay this lesson. So first of all, what have we got that first question? Well, we're simply timesing the two x's together. That makes x squared. We're timesing the x and the 3 together. That makes 3x. I checked that I can't simplify, and of course, because they are different terms, x squared versus 3x, that's my final answer. The next one is now the multiplication of or expanding a binomial product. Remember from last lesson, a binomial product means you have two things. We have the x plus 3 and the x plus 2, and they're being times together. So we start with the x and we times the x by both of those terms in the second set of brackets. So x times x equals x squared, x times 2 equals 2x. So I've dealt with the x, now we deal with the plus 3. So 3 times x means positive 3x, and 3 times 2 makes 6. And then we simplify, of course, to make x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that's what we were doing last lesson. I hope you are fairly familiar with that. If you're not, maybe go back and re-look at that video. So let's have a look at what a perfect square is. Now, these are the 4 questions that we'll be looking at this morning. Now, what do you notice? Are there any similarities in this or in each of these questions? Now, hopefully you're looking at these questions and you're thinking to yourself, hey, the brackets are identical. That's why these are called perfect squares, because they are the same term that is being multiplied together, which in turn makes it a square. For example, we could rewrite this question as x plus 3 and simply put a square outside the brackets. Okay, x squared plus, x plus 3, x plus 3, we can say x plus 3 squared. So that's what we call a perfect square. All right, now, we're being asked in this instance to expand this perfect square. Later on, we'll be asked to factorize it, but now we're expanding. So what you can see here is that this is no different to the last couple of questions we were doing. Actually, there's no difference whatsoever, because we're still saying x times x is x squared. We're still saying x times 3 is 3x. We're still saying 3 times x is 3x. And we're still saying 3 times 3 is 9. We then say, hey, we got 3x's in the middle. Funny enough, they're the same number. That's interesting. And we can simply add those two things together, and we've now expanded our perfect square. Now, the great thing about these questions, that no matter what happens, you can always do it that way. So they could give me the question like in question 4 here, where it's in the squared form, and you can write the double brackets and expand it like that, and it works perfectly. Now, those who are in the higher end of the classes, I guess, and are wanting to kind of push their knowledge a bit, there is a bit of a trick to this. There is a quicker way to do this without having to expand each term. What you will notice is that when you expanded those terms, those brackets, we had the same number twice, which means we have 2 lots of that number. Now we've got 3x in the middle. Can you see another way to get 3x from those brackets? Well, perhaps maybe what you can see is that if you times the 2 numbers together, or x and 3, that actually makes a 3x and I actually have 2 of them. So there is a quicker way, right? And often we start with this little guy, which is, again, it's a perfect square because they are the exact same term being times together. And if we actually times this out, now I could say BA, I'm going to write AB because it's the same thing, and we have B squared. What you'll see is that the first term is the first thing squared, the last term is the second thing squared, and then that middle term, which happens to be in this case plus 2 lots of AB, is 2 lots of, or double, the product of the 2 terms there. So when I looked at that previous question, we could have simply said, square the x, I get x squared, square the 3, I get 9, times the x and 3 together make 3x, and double it to get 6x. Now, as I said, For the higher end classes, you're probably going to push yourself to learn that method because it's a little bit faster. But certainly in 5.2, I'm happy for you to write the brackets out twice and just keep on doing the expansions. Okay, I'm going to do it the whole way through here. Okay, that's the first one. If you want to have a go at the next three, because they're all exactly the same, then feel free to pause this and then push on. Okay, so how'd you go with example 2? Well, again, if I'm looking at that long expansion, it's not even that long. I don't know why I say long. It's not that long. X times x equals x squared. X times, this time minus 4, is minus 4x. Minus 4 times x is minus 4x. And look, there's that same term in the middle. And then we get negative 4 times negative 4. Well, hopefully you remember that is positive 16, because when we times two negatives, it makes it positive. I'm then going to just simplify the middle terms. We get negative 8x and we get positive 16. And that is a perfect way. So again, gents, when you're doing your binomial expansions, even if it's a perfect square, just do it the long way. Okay, now again, if some of you are really trying to push yourselves and you want to do the quicker way, if we have x minus 4 squared, or x minus 4, x minus 4, what we can do is simply square the first. We can square the last. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. And if I times them together, x times negative 4 is negative 4x. Double that, we get negative 8x. And look at that. Okay, it's the same answer. But again, no need to do that. We can just do it the long way. Okay, why is example 3 a bit more challenging? Well, hopefully if you had a crack at this, you might have realized that I've now got a number in front of the x. The fact is, it's not really that much harder. We're doing the same things. We're still doing 2x times 2x. Well, that makes 4x squared. We're doing 2x times positive 1. That is plus 2x. We've got 1 times 2x plus 2x. Look, those terms are the same. And 1 times 1 is 1. I'm now going to simplify that. 4x squared plus 4x plus 1, and I got my answer correct. So again, long way for me, great. Okay, that's what I think you should be doing. But again, if you're really trying to push yourself, like I was saying before, you could simply look at that as 2x plus 1 all squared, and you could quickly say, well, if I square 2x, I get 4x squared. If I square positive 1, I get positive 1. And if I times them together, I get 2x. Double that, we get 4x. Okay, that could be a little bit faster. But again, not that much faster. All right, and the last question here, 5x plus 1 squared. Well, the only thing I've done here is I've condensed it straight away. So again, for the majority of us, this is what we're going to do. We're going to rewrite this out as 5x plus 1, 5x plus 1. And now I can simply multiply my brackets out. 5x times 5x is 25x squared. Then I get plus 5x, awesome. Then I can get another plus 5x, they're the same, nice. And I get that plus 1. And I can now simplify that to make 25x squared plus 10x plus 1. And that's my answer. So again, not much different from that previous lesson. However, if you got that 5x plus 1, and again, you try and remember those rules and try and do it a little bit faster, we could simply square the first term, which makes 5 squared is 25, and square the x will get x squared. I could square the last term, 1 squared is 1. I could times them together to make 5x, double it makes 10x. And there you go, it's the same answer. But again, gents, please trust me, particularly for 5.2 classes and probably most of the 5.3 classes, just write the brackets out next to each other and then times the four things together and then simplify. It's the quickest way. Well, not the quickest way, but it's probably the best way for you to remember. If you're in those honor style classes, okay, then of course you can start pushing yourself to know the rules, because you'll be doing much longer questions where you have to do things a lot faster. And hopefully you can start pushing yourself to know that little rule that we looked at again, which is this one over here. Okay, and that's the a plus b all squared equals square the first, times them together and double the answer, and square the last. And that's a nice little thing to learn if you feel up to it. But apart from that, just it's same as last lesson, same as always for your binomial products. See how you go, do a few questions today, and let me know if you're having any troubles. Have a wonderful day.